And we're back to learning CSS. Now let's talk about the basics of alignment. To be honest, there's certainly more to it than I'm going to show you in this short intro. I'm certainly going to create a bigger course about positioning, flexbox and all of this fun stuff. But if you're a total beginner, just follow me with this easy example and you will see the difference between elements, images and text. When it comes to positioning, I create a div container, give it a class of border, and inside I'll nest a paragraph, just a simple text example. Once we've got that, we're going to use our CSS. I can, for example, select the div container directly and give this a border so that we can actually see it around our second paragraph on the page. Here it is now. You can see that for both paragraphs we have the same alignment on the left, and this makes the text inside of the div container a little bit squeezed towards the border. Usually you don't want that, you want to add a little bit of separation. You can do that by giving it a margin. When I select both paragraphs, it is given to both. And I can specify that in a certain direction, let's say margin left. So up and down keeps its default margin now, only left is adjusted. But I want to only have that right here on this paragraph. So it's a good idea to give this a class to target only that and leave the first paragraph unaffected. So same principle works for the div container. If I use the border class .border instead of the div as a selector, it still works. Let me call that march minus left as a class, and I select it right here. So dot march minus left. And if I refresh this now, let me save the HTML as well. I refresh it, and now you can see only the second paragraph moves to the right, as this is only given a margin due to its class, and the first paragraph is unaffected. And this is how you can deal with text elements. What you usually want is to put text in center. So let me change this class to center. I use .center as a selector. And I use text minus align, set it to center. And this will now, if I save both and refresh it in the browser, you can see this paragraph jumps now to the center. Text align default is always left. And you can also use right. I think that's pretty easy to understand. It just works like a text editor that has this alignment option for left, center and right. Let us have a look at our div container. Because here we can't use the text minus align property, it only works on text. We can use the margin left, just like we did with the text. And I can use a general margin. One of these values that we can use for it is auto, and auto is basically the default. Let me set the width to 50%. Margin left is still set to auto, and now you can see the left hand side is now cut off at 50%. If we set the margin to auto without left, this is going to jump to the center position. Margin right would push it to the left at 50%. And this would be one way, and I think it's the easiest way to position these elements like div containers on a website. We've got one more element that we want to add, and there's an image. Let me get back to our project folder. I've got an img folder. I'm going to use the img tag, add a source to it. Let's use this center image. So give it an alt text first, and now use center dot, I believe it was a PNG, but let me check. And it was. But obviously I'll have to use our img folder first. So it's img/center.png, and now the browser should find it. And here it is. You can now select this image directly, but it's a good idea to work with classes here as well, because you might want to use more than one image. So let me create a class .small-image as a selector, and we'll add it right here to our image tag, class small-image. I'll set the width to 50%, and if it's connected properly, it should already work. Let me make it 25, so I'll go even smaller. And now I want to put that in center. Problem is, when we just go about it like we did with our div container, so in the .border class, we could use a margin and set it to auto, but that won't really do much, even if we set it to margin left. But if we set the display to block first, then it works. So this is what you need for images. You need to set the display to block first, and then you can basically treat it like a div container. So like we did for our .border class, we can simply add a margin. So these are the basics. As I've said, there is more to positioning and aligning. In CSS, it can be quite a complex topic, but if you're a total beginner, these are the basics and they should help you creating your first websites.